events are changing. Our December events are locked in and good to go. It's our November ones that we're looking at evaluating what we're going to do. We'll have more information about that since the Fresno State thing changed on us like 30 minutes ago. So yes. Any questions on that before I continue?
Is there a place where we get these dates? And
They're all posted on our website.
Okay.
I should also note, I forgot to start this, we are recording and live streaming this meeting right now. This is live on the internet for those that want to watch and join. I should probably, I need to pull up the thing so I make sure we catch any feedback from them, but I may repeat questions and stuff so the mic can hear it, but other than that, just know that this is recorded and kind of public right now. So yeah, so on our website, if you go hover over the first Lego League nav bar, there's a tournament and scrimmage link, and these are all here. And additionally, you can find them on the official calendar, or if you go into the calendar on the homepage as well. So kind of going forward with some dates and deadlines, again, the 5th is still targeting, but could shift and be pushed back. Additionally, paperwork is due to CBR as well at that time. A lot of teams are still in the initial stage in terms of our paperwork process. If you do STIMS, the Student Team Information System with FIRST, you will have to replicate the roster in Team Connect, and it won't automatically pull right now. And then from there, just mark that every kid did in STIMS, and that's all you have to do. We'll go cross-reference it later.
Will it pull in enough time that we can just wait, or do you recommend duplicating it and not worrying about the delay?
So with STIMS, as we mentioned in our email blast this morning, we hope we get it by the end of the week. I found out today that they have no ETA on when partners will get access to the STIMS database in terms of members. As first termed, the Great Registration Crash in 2016. For anybody who tried accessing the FIRST website last Thursday, noticed that it was completely offline. They had a critical failure of a system for about 6 hours on Thursday, and they're kind of all hands on deck trying to fix that. What that means is that partners don't have access to STIMS, and we don't know when they're going to get access. So I would recommend replicating the roster, marking it as STIMS, and come event registration, if we still don't have access to it, we'll just let everyone through temporarily, and then we'll check it on the backside. We're not going to fault people for doing the work, but first kind of dropping the ball on it. So that's STIMS. Coach agreements are still required for coaches. That's a form for our region. So even if you do all the stuff at FIRST, the coach agreement is something that CBR has specifically. It's not a national form. That is one you'll upload through Team Connect directly. The 2 screen coaches have automatically completed the STIMS requirement. You've done the consent release form. I've had a couple questions about that. Part of the screening process and youth protection, all that clears you for that automatically. Which is why if you sign up in Team Connect, it automatically checks the box, and so you don't have to worry about it. So yeah, hopefully we'll get access to STIMS soon, but as it stands right now, FIRST is all hands on deck getting their system to not crash again when they open registration for FRC, hopefully next week.
One more follow-up question on that. The consent form that would be through STIMS that you also have on your website, then do you recommend doing hard copies of that as well? Or just waiting?
If you don't want to deal with STIMS, you can just do the hard copies and you don't have to worry about STIMS.
STIMS is done.
Yeah. And if you've already done STIMS, just replicate the kids in Team Connect, mark them as STIMS, and that'll be all you have to do.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. If you've already done STIMS, just do that. It's far easier than having to do the paperwork again. But if you haven't done the paperwork, you have the consideration of, maybe just get the paperwork and then know you're good and done.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the event registration and STIMS stuff before we jump forward? Okay. So, coach paperwork, which is all of our coach agreements, are due to CBR on the 21st. You can still add coaches and stuff, but we won't be printing badges because we freeze all the names and we submit them to printing at that time. Same with team names, all that starts locking for printing and other things you have to prep. Now, event registration fees will push back as much as event registration puts back. So if we push it back event registration a week, we'll push back the deadline for payments in a week as well, just to keep it fair. as we go forward on what that's going to look like. In November and summer, we have our qualifying events. Judging profiles is due the Wednesday prior. That's something you complete in Team Connect. You just upload 2 photos and fill out some information. You being the kids should write that information. You can transcribe it and type it if they're not good typists, but the kids should be providing that information to the judges. More information on the judging profiles is in the season standards manual, which is available on our website. And then, in terms of the championship, the registration deadline is the 22nd, and then our championships on the, and then this is stuff for championship, which we can talk about later. They want to recommend, oops, I've presented this at kickoff, present it again. Volunteer, a great way to learn about the First Leg League program is sit on the other side of the table as a judge and seeing what that entire process is like. It can seem very much like a closed door affair, because it kind of is. What happens in deliberations, stay in deliberations, and all the stuff in judging. So you can learn what that process is like and see the other side of it and what the judges go through. And then from that, you can learn how to best prep your team. We have information on our website. Additionally, we're looking for those interested in potentially participating in the key roles that help really govern what happens at an event. So before I jump into the rubrics, is there any questions on any region stuff before we start diving into judging specific topics, judging a robot game? So any forms, registration?
I do. I've never done this before, but like the qualifier events, they're like you just get to do those over and over again, or
You pick one.
Huh?
You'll pick one.
You pick one, and then you don't advance. That's pretty much you're done.
So you'll attend one event, and then from there we're advancing 60 teams to championship. So if we get 100 teams in the region, there'll be a 60% advancement rate out of every qualifier. But yeah, you pick one. When you go to pick an event, when the registration opens, you'll pick your top 3, and it'll assign you the first one available in case there's a mad rush when event registration first opens.
So it's not the top 75%, it's the top 60% that advance?
It is the top 60. Well, it is the top number of 60 divided by total number of teams in the region that determines the advancement rate. We'll advance 60 to the championship, and however many we have in the region that participates will dictate the advancement rate. The 75% thing is for being eligible to be considered for advancement. You have to be in the top 75% of robot games to be eligible to be considered for advancement by the judges.
It doesn't matter where you do your regional, is the top 10 for the whole region or just for the competition?
Just for the qualifier.
At that.
Yeah, just for that event. So if there's a 24-team event, you have to be in the top 18, rank 18 or higher in the robot game at that event to be eligible to be part of that percentage advancement. So yeah, the 75% is the breaking point that judges then have to use. They look above that point to see who advances. So. Any other questions on regional stuff? Forms, website, resources?
All these coach classes, they're all going to be different? Or
This one is in person. The next ones will just be phone calls or some sort of online session. You might have you might be able to set up a table somewhere and a camera on it, might be able to do live, but regardless, it'll just either be a phone call maybe with a team viewer or some sort of digital presentation method with it. They'll all be recorded, hopefully, and posted online after the fact. Okay, so someone asked to kind of cover the judging rubrics. I would cover the robot game score sheet if it was done. First has not delivered that to partners yet, so I cannot necessarily go over that. Hopefully we'll do that at the next coach seminar. We'll talk about that at the time. But for now, I will just go over the judging rubrics. There are 3 judging sessions in first. That is in addition to the robot game. Each of those sessions has a color-coded rubric, red for core values, yellow for project, blue for robot design. I'll present them all 3 here. The judges use these rubrics to evaluate how a team performed in any of the particular categories. In the case of the core values, There are 3 major areas, being inspiration, teamwork, and gracious professionalism. I know it's kind of hard to read, but all of these rubrics are downloadable from our website, so they're public. You can view them, read them, and see how the judges, it's the same form that they will have. And it asks them questions. So, for example, I'm going to have to walk over here to read it. Sorry. Inclusion is one of the kind of rows here. Consideration and appreciation for contributions of all team members with balanced involvement. And from there are 4 categories, kind of levels, being beginning, developing, accomplished, and exemplary. There is an ND column for not demonstrated. That's a very rare column to use. But for example, for this one here, it says unbalanced team involvement and lack of appreciation for contributions for beginning. Developing is unbalanced team involvement or lack of appreciation for contributions. The next one is balanced team involvement and appreciation for contributions of most team members. Balanced team involvement and appreciation for contributions of all team members. And so the judges take this. They also have the ability to identify strengths at the bottom, which, where do they think this team was strong in. They'll evaluate most of this during the teamwork, the core values judging session, which is a 5-minute teamwork activity followed by a 5-minute Q&A. Most of these, they will look, especially this inclusion one, how did those team members work together when they solved that teamwork challenge? Basically a DI instant challenge. How did they work together on that? Did one person come up with it and push out everyone else's ideas, which kind of puts you down here? Or did, they all work together, talk about a bunch of ideas, decide the best one, work together to implement it? And so that's kind of what that one's looking at. I don't necessarily want to go into all of these, but if you do have any questions, our judge advisor, who's not here, can answer via email, so don't hesitate to shoot an email to us, and we can help out there. This does not determine a ranking. This is more of direct feedback and evaluation. So just because a team has exemplary selected on all the columns, in one judging room, a judge may think, oh, this team's really great, and mark exemplary for everything. In another room, a judge might be a little bit more, critical and have a different interpretation of these slightly. We do have a lot of training to help even the playing field, but someone might have more direct comments and change, and that team might actually be the one that wins the award. Because in deliberations, the judges talk about the teams and figure out which one best fits each of the award categories in advancement. So this does not determine a ranking. It is just feedback for a specific team by a judge and pair. The project one, very similar, except in that it's got one more up here, but you'll notice there's these red asterisks on these 3, and this kind of indicates down here what that is. Those are the 3 required components of the project. Identify a problem, design a solution, share with the community. The judges, if a judge will try, we're putting a lot of training into making sure that they ask the required questions, and to make sure that they don't have to circle ND in any of those, because if they do, that's a disqualification for project and advancement champions. It's very important that the teams identify the 3 required components of the project and complete the 3 required components of the project. Identifying a solution, or identifying a problem, designing a solution, and sharing with the community before the event day. It's very important. First Light League does not recognize sharing with teams at the competition as a way of sharing. It does not fulfill the ethos of what this is about. It's not sharing with your other teams. It's about sharing with someone outside the program, sharing with your community. Whether it be another teacher at the school where you're from, it's still sharing outside the team. It's just very important that that sharing happens. Same thing with designing a solution and identifying a problem. It's very important that those 3 components are then presented clearly to the judges. We've had some instances in previous years where the team shared, but the kids didn't understand the question, they weren't prepared, but the question was, did you share with somebody? And the answer was no. That's not a good thing to have the kids say. But when you, in follow-up questions, like, oh yeah, well, we talked to our teacher. It was, our first grade teacher. And she liked it. Okay, well, then they did share it. It's important that that type of information comes across to the judges. And even if it's, they take their presentation to school and they show it to some of their friends, I mean, there has to be some sort of sharing attribute. In terms of robot design, actually, I should jump back to project and say one final thing about how the session runs. It's a 5-minute time frame to present the project. So part of the project is, so you do the 3 parts: identify, design, share. From there, you got to wrap those 3 things up and do a 5-minute presentation to the judges. Whether it's a skit, a PowerPoint, the kids are just reading from a script and talking. I mean, you have props, and they could be doing a song and dance. They can be doing whatever they want. Has to fit within a 5-minute time frame. And if the judges will try to approximate whether or not they think they're almost done in it, but if they do go significantly over, they will cut the presentation short and go into a 5-minute, approximately, Q&A to answer any of these remaining questions.
So it doesn't have to be as a poster? It can be like
For the project, it can be whatever.
Whatever they like.
It's very open. It just has to include a live component. They can't, the kids might be nervous. They might have issues, they might be kind of reserved. It's against the rules actually to have the kids walk in with a laptop that's a pre-recorded presentation, stick it in front of the judges and play it and walk away. That's actually that is a violation of the rules. It is important that the kids are actively doing something. They can use a video as supplement. They can use a PowerPoint and talk over it, but it's important that they are live doing something in that.
With regards to PowerPoint, how would we set that up? The kids are going to bring a laptop and you guys look it up, or? So,
the only thing that might be guaranteed in the room is a power button, really. If the team wants to project something, they have to bring a projector, and they have to bring. Frequently, it's just the kids stick a laptop in front of the judges, or on a chair or something, and kind of talk over it, and kind of do it that way.
For values judging, will they need to bring a core values poster and for the robot design? Do they need the executive summary this year?
So, neither are required in our region. We don't expect either of them. We do kind of educate our judges what those 2 things are. Particularly in robot design, usually our robot design judges just go straight into Q&A. They don't want a presentation necessarily. A lot of them rather just have the interaction and ask questions to answer the rubric.
There was a year where there was a robot design executive summary document requested from the kids. So
that was 2 years ago. We dropped it last year. And this year first put the robot design executive summary and the core values poster in the challenge guide, made it a lot more visible to teams. We don't expect either. I mean, we tell our judges they exist, especially for core values judges. I tell them about the core values poster, but it's not something that's expected, and we do tell them to do not rank a team better just based on the existence of a poster. Rate them on their merits of.
And the print tab of the program, is that print tab?
I would recommend yes, you print it out. In some cases, the kids have just shown it on a laptop. However, as technology likes to do things and fail, it's very important to have a clear job.
Also nice for judges to have it during deliberations.
Correct. It's also nice for the judges can make notes on the programming, but for when they're doing deliberations and discussing each team, having the code there, even if it's just pictures, is really helpful when they're trying to compare 2 teams and how their programming merits. And that's something you would hand to the judges during the session for robot design. And for project, you're welcome to leave materials, leave a binder, that happens frequently. Excuse me. But do identify it with your number, and it may take a couple weeks to get back to you. We would try to make it available at the district office, and if you definitely want it, shoot us an email so we know and we can keep a lookout for it. Our cleanup at an event is to stick things in a bunch of boxes, and we do it in boxes on another day. So be sure to identify your number if you want any materials that are delivered back. Okay, and then we did briefly kind of cover robot design. Again, it's a 10-minute Q&A session, and the judges are going to be, again, filling out this rubric, going through each of these questions and comparing where they feel the team was on each of these topics. And they cover a whole variety of things from design, programming, innovative, creative ways to solve problems on the game field. I'm sorry? Teams will need to run a mission or two, yes. Teams will have to demonstrate at least one mission to the judges. They may ask them to do more. It's more of kind of it's very much a Q&A where they're going to answer as many questions. They're going to ask questions to solve their rubric, complete their rubric. And part of that is going to be demoing missions. You know, they may ask them to do one multiple times. They may ask them to show a bunch of different ones. It's really kind of how that mission flows and how the session goes will dictate what missions are going to run. Okay. So we have about 45 minutes left. What I will do, we can jump onto any table questions here now. There we go. We have a camera here, and we'll flip it here. We do have our referee extraordinaires here, who will assist with any questions. We also can take anything on any form of questions that you guys might have all over the floor to whatever, in terms of robot game, project, so on and so forth. I will say that for those who are wondering, this table is warped a little bit. This is our demo table that happens to just kind of sit in this corner year over year and behind this wall. So it's not fared all that well. Our tables at competitions are much better. This is just one that we happen to have here. So.
The 75%, I know I can't really ask you to project, but is there a number of points that tends to be?
So
really all over the place?
The interesting thing about that is every year, the maximum point values radically change. So it's hard to kind of guesstimate where it's going to fall because Scott Evans, the game designer, likes to change all the point values around. And it also depends on, you know, how much time everyone else has in the region and where everyone else is at your event. Typically, the earlier events have an average per match lower score than the last qualifying event of the season, because it's more of a function of how many weeks the teams have. The teams that attend a last week event have, you know, 4 more weeks than a team that attends the first week event. And so you kind of have a varying kind of scale there. Really kind of hard to guesstimate where that would end up.
I thought it might be.
Do you have a question, sir?
For part of the robot game, you can put the gecko on the wall. If the gecko is on the robot and then the robot's off the wall, is that going to be double points, or is that just?
All right, Phil and Matt, I'll send this one to you. This is a question that we've, I think, got at kickoff too. If a robot hangs on the wall and the gecko hangs on a robot that's hanging on the wall, is that correct?
Right.
How does that score?
Scores as long as not touching the other gecko.
As the weight's fully supported by the wall? Yeah. So yes, your answer is yes, it does score that way. That both would score. Because the only requirement there is, if I'm not mistaken, that the gecko has to be fully supported by the wall, and the verbiage in the other part is the robot has to be fully supported by the wall and nothing else. So by extension, you can kind of extrapolate that you would get both in that case. Does that make sense to everybody? Questions back there?
My kids are asking that model that turns the animals from one table to another, the one at the end here, is that attached in any way or just kind of sitting in between the two tables?
So in this case, this one is kind of just sitting here. If I'm not mistaken,
Because there was no Velcro or anything around there, so it's not
Matt and Phil, I don't recall off the top of my head how this affixes to the table.
It's gonna be dual lock.
There's no dual lock markings on the mat, but I'm not.
There was some.
No, you said it'll be dual lock.
It's dual lock, right? They just don't provide the boxes on the mat because it's very. I don't think this one will fit. I'm fairly certain it's dual locks to the mat.
It'd have to be dual lock.
But the tables are bolted together, and so this affixes to the mat based on centering it between the two tables, if I'm not mistaken. They're looking it up. So yeah, it'll sit on the mat, most likely centered between the two tables once. But they don't provide markings because it really depends on field variance on how this gets set up at an event. I'm assuming the setup instructions will dictate that once Stephen's looking it up.
Yeah, it's dual lock.
It's dual lock?
Yeah.
Where?
Field setup.
I think
All right.
it means we're on the map.
Where, how does it align?
Oh, in between. In the middle.
A middle in all directions?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so middle this way, and then middle
There's,
this way.
There's 2 red lines that we have to set it in.
Hopefully, yeah. And so those 2 red lines would guide as much as possible.
And you use 2x4s for the walls.
180s.
So you can,
2x3s.
Because the red line. Well, I mean, I think you can send it
The two apart.
to be equal on each side.
so unfortunately you kind of can't see it on the camera, but where my fingers are,
That's the main.
so where my fingers are actually where the red lines are. You can barely see them on this camera, but they're clear on the map. And that will dictate where it will end up.
Because it'll be hard to.
But it's not, doesn't have an exact marker because it kind of depends on how the mats get laid out and some other. Not all the mats are printed the same. Tables have a bit of field variance. And to answer your question, the tables are built with 2x3s or 2x4s depending on when they were made. 2x4 was the old model wall height, and then they went to 2x3s because it's far lighter and easier to see what's going on the table. However, our partners have tables based on various years, and so expect either based on between even practice tables and competition tables at the same event might have different wall heights.
But you would expect two buys to be flush joined.
Here, yes, yeah. So it's not one. There's 2 of these. It's 2 tables bolted together.
And they're bolted flush.
Do table pairs have matching heights?
Well, I mean, if they're not matching heights, it won't be level. So they should be roughly the same height when they're bolted together. Yes. Is that true?
Nothing like 2x3s on both sides.
Oh yes, yes. We're not going to bolt the 2x4 to 2x3. It'll be the same. They'll either in the table pair configuration, will either both be 2x4s or both be 2x3s. We won't mix and match.
So similar question to the biomimicry wall, where we were talking about if an object is supported by another object. If an object is on, if object A is on object B and B is on C, is A considered to be on C?
I think that kind of depends on the specific circumstance. and how it's
Probably,
written.
but I'm going to leave that up to our referees back there, who are probably, you probably asked a. All right, we'll get back to you on that. Any other questions on anything related to the program? Doesn't have to be game, doesn't have to be. Open the floor to anything that we can do to help.
Are there specific rules that we can find online on, because this is my first time that I'll be doing any of this, so I don't know what they're talking about.
So, on our website and a lot of other, and on firstlegally.org, there is the challenge document, which is I don't think I actually have it with me, a kind of a 4-page overview, and then there's, I think, a 20, 30-page document, which is the challenge guide, that goes into details on all the missions, the rules, the project requirements, everything. And with those 2 documents, kind of govern the challenge, and then we have a document called the Season Standards Manual that governs how we implement the events in our region. So, if I had a card, I would give it to you, or just shoot us an email, and we can help point you in the right direction on where to find everything.
But rules like that are gonna be in the challenge guide, not the challenge document. It's where
Yeah,
these
so
questions
all
are
of, yeah, the
technicalities.
the details, the fine points of the rules are in the challenge guide, yes. You have a question?
Yeah, so it's my first time too, and I have a minor on it. So should I go with, what's the difference between the junior league and FLL?
So first LEGO League is the 9 to 14 program. In this program, the kids are much more season oriented. They, they have to build a robot that competes on this board in some sort of fashion. There is kind of going out to the community. It's basically a grown-up version of First LEGO League Junior, which is more about learning, and it's something that can happen at any point between now and April. Whereas for First LEGO League, the season started a month ago, and our first events are in November. Whereas First LEGO League Junior, we're planning on having expos throughout the season, and it's pretty much an 8-week program in First LEGO League Junior. When you pay the fees, you get a set of booklets, lesson plans, and lab notebooks effectively, and it guides the team through about 12 sessions on how to go from the beginning to having a show me poster and a Lego model and how to present that at the expo.
So maybe I should start with that because it's my first time.
The First LEGO Junior would be definitely an easier starting point, yes. I'm sorry?
Depends on age of kids.
It does. First LEGO League Junior is a 6 to 10 program. And then when you get to the 9 and 10, depending on their levels, when you would switch to the First LEGO League.
But in the FLL, you get judged, like, there's variants of 9-year-olds and 16-year-olds. There's no age, like, you get judged.
It's 9 to 14 in the United States. It's 9 to 16 outside the United States. Yes, teams can have any members from 9 to 14, and they're all compete against each other. There's no subdivisions in the program based on age. Same thing applies to First LEGO League Junior, although at that level it's more about showing off. There's no sense of competition at an expo. They're very short days, like 4 hours max. And it's just about showing off what they've done. There's no competitive aspect. Everyone's a winner in that program. And then at the First LEGO League levels, when they start competing, they start, getting a little bit more competitive, building robots, creating innovative solutions in a project, working on their teamwork, growing up a little to get them ready for the high school programs, if they have access to one. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah.
When they do the presentation for the project or whatever, the other things, are they graded in how they're presenting or just that they've met all the qualifications? Like in how they present? So, part of the project presentation is the quality of the presentation. I think it's called creative presentation. So look at the creativity, how they presented, was it just a PowerPoint or did they come up with this huge skit with a bunch of props and, rap or, a song or dance out of it? Then there's also actually meeting with the requirements of the project, sharing how deep did they go into their research, how realistic is their solution, can it be implemented, the implementability of the solution, and so that, and how far do they share it? Did they share it to a classroom? Did they go to their city council? There's a kind of levels of sharing as well. So,
Are there any plans for scrimmages this season?
So I've heard of one scrimmage in the works. However, I have not gotten a confirmation of whether that's going to happen. I believe they're planning on the 5th of November. But I have not had any confirmations from anyone on scrimmages just yet. So we'll announce that as we know more. But at the same time now, there's nothing officially scheduled in regards to scrimmages this season.
There was an update to the robot game. Something got going from 12 manure samples to 7 manure samples, because you start with 10, I think, on the home base, and then you have 2 on the table
So the question is in regard to the robot game update. Sure, if you want to, or Phil, somebody.
So in the original document, it said that there's one thing where you have to get the manure samples into this box right here. And if you get all, according to the challenge guide, and even the challenge document, it said that all 12 have to be in there to get the bonus points. But it also says that at the beginning of the match, the referee takes 5 manure samples out of base and holds on to them, and that's what we use as touch penalties, or interruption penalties, I guess, is what they call it now. So the day 1 update changed that number 12 to 7 because effectively the teams only have access to the 7 manure samples on the field because the referee is going to be holding on to 5 of them.
So 5 will be at base, 2 on the field.
Yeah, so there's 5 in base that start in base, and then there's 1 in the middle, and then 1 over kind of by the pandas. So those are the 7 that it's referring to, because the other 5 are going to be held on to the referees for interruption penalties.
And an interruption penalty is when the robot's touched while out of base, which triggers it to come back. So if the robot's messing up, the kids grab it to bring it back. That's an interruption penalty, and the referees would put one of the manure samples on the field.
In this triangle that they're not allowed to touch.
Yeah, in that triangle over there, which is way on that side of the screen. There you guys.
How many points is an interruption penalty? How is that done?
It's minus 6 points for every touchdown. 6 points?
Yeah.
Up to 5, because there's only 5 manure samples.
Yeah.
So potentially you could lose up to 30 points.
Yes.
But as Scott Evan says, don't use that as a strategy, that there's only 5, because the goal is to have them interrupted as few times as possible.
Part of the engineering challenge of this, the design challenge, is to create robots that can have repeatability. That's one of the robot design criteria, is how repeatable is the robot? Does it do something different every time? Is it consistent? So those are the questions they look at. And relying just on the randomness of it and just going for touch penalties is, I mean, it is technically a valid strategy, but it's not a
Scott Evans approved strategy.
Yes. Does that answer your question?
The intro video, and you may not be able to answer this, said that the food could be distributed without the use of a color sensor. Is there something on the food that they're referring to that would make that possible?
No. I mean, because there's more. There 8?
Yeah, 2 of each. All right, so what they're saying is the food is placed into the circles where the animals are.
Right.
And so you can put them out however you want. But if you put more than one food in a circle, it has to be the same color.
Right.
And kind of explaining what do they mean by that? They're meaning that if you have a color sensor and you collect a bunch of pellets, the robot can figure out where they need to go.
Right. If you
the other side of that is taking it back to base and letting the kids manipulate.
Sort them yourself and then send it back out.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. So there's nothing else identifying on those samples?
No, they're all exactly the same shape, just
same weight, same build. It's just they're different colors.
But bringing them back to base would allow a human to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. In base, teams can manipulate anything as long as it doesn't, unless there's any specific exclusions in the challenge document, which I don't think there are this year.
not this year. There was last year.
Manure can only be transmitted one at a time, but can food be? Does that rule apply to food? Do you know?
No.
I don't believe there's any restraints on.
And for manure, it isn't just one at a time. It's one per run, isn't it?
Yeah, to take it out to the...
So every time the robot leaves base, it's only allowed to move one manure into this box. So it can't come out, pick this one up, move it, come get this one and put it in, because that's 2 in 1 run.
Okay.
So a run is considered the robot leaving base, coming, doing something, and coming back. That is Scott Evans trying to prevent 100% teams.
It's, yeah, it's a,
Also is the milk on this ramp, because it's
Yes.
only worth like 3 points.
so you might see that mission and go, oh, that's cool, let's do that. I would advise not going
Or
for
like
it.
getting the camera versus getting the seal, it's like 1 additional.
Yeah, it was explained to us at kind of at the partner level that these are designed to be very difficult to help separate those teams at World Festival that like to get perfect scores on the field in 2.5 minutes.
With respect to the challenge, like it says on manure, only 1 may be transported at a time, but it does not.
It doesn't specify run? Phil?
One at a time. So, it doesn't say that if they're out, it doesn't say that it's not pretty clear, it's not very clear as far as the runs. It doesn't say that. It says you deliver it 1 at a time.
So they can, as long as they're only in contact with 1 at a time?
What's the
M9.
I'm not training to see that.
only 1 manure sample may be transported
At a time.
at a time.
So as long as it loses,
So if you're transporting 2,
Right.
doesn't count.
But it doesn't mean you can only do 1 per run.
No, but you can only transport 1 at a time.
Yes, that's clear. Yeah.
So you could leave with base with 1, drop it off, pick up 1 on the field, drop it off, pick up the other 1 on the field, drop it off. So you could do 3 in 1 run, but then when you came back to base, you'd have to
But then
do
the
1
other
in 1.
4 would have to be done
Yeah.
one at a time.
Yeah. So there's supposed to be 5 here. Let's put the other 5 over here, just so that they're. Okay. Any other questions? We have about 20 minutes left on our time here.
So go back to kind of piggyback back to what she had said, and we decided to put the kids instead of the lower division league, because the kids are under 10 on the team. How would that work? Would they be able to do some sort of challenge like this also? Or is
So their challenge is called Creature Craze, and it's the same type of theme, although they're just focused on honeybees and honeybee habitats and animals in a honeybee habitat. And looking at how those animals interact, coming up with a model to demonstrate that, and a kind of a show me poster that shows off their research. So it's a similar theme, but it's not as involved. First Lego League takes it to the next level. First Lego League Junior is a very simplified approach to the topic and the challenge, and can be done in about 8 weeks at any point between now and April. We'll have an April Expo, and if you plan 8 weeks in front of that, so you can start in February and end in April.
the kids would kind of have an introductory thing?
Yeah, they don't have a field. I mean, so they don't have this field. This is a First Lego League only field. Actually, Stephen's right. This, in First Lego League Junior, they actually get a Lego model, which actually happens to be this one from First Lego League, the Beehive. And so it's got, kind of acts as their, what inspires them. It's called the Inspire set. And so they have this model, and it kind of uses them to guide their honeybee journey with Elisa, the honeybee. So I would recommend at least looking it up online. We kind of have information on that on our website and what the differences are. Or even the first website has something similar too. I mean, they're similar, but First Lego League is, I mean, they're very different animals. They have more differences than similarities, really.
they use Legos.
They use Legos and they're working with animals. Yeah.
Themes.
So yeah, but as 9 to 10-year-olds in First Lego League Junior would, for their first year they would get something out of it, but their second, third years at that age level, it probably become very simple an exercise, and this is the next level program for them for the next couple of years.
So if you had a group, you would start out in junior, and then 9-year-olds?
It's really more of a question of the capability of the kids, really. We've had teams of 9-year-olds do well in First Leg League. A team of all 9-year-olds, and they do fine. It really depends on what the coaches and the kids feel comfortable with and doing. First Leg League Junior is a nice introduction to the program, and it's much more widely available now in our area. And so it's definitely a nice starting point. But if the kids are ready, they can jump into First Leg League. In First Leg League Junior, they don't use the EV3 or the Mindstorms. They use the We Do, which is a sensor and a motor and a tablet, and that controls them. And they build a model on a Lego plate, and they show off what they've learned. It's really about showing off what they've learned in their research of honeybees and habitats and other animals.
Did you have a question?
I was just trying to look it up on my setup guide, but does the shark, when it sits in the tank, does it have to be sitting on those rubber, black rubber things? Or can it be turned the other way around? There's one way in which it locks and one way which it doesn't.
Well, I mean, it doesn't necessarily lock. I mean, it's very unstable. It's got those rubber pieces in there. I hope you can see it. Barely.
It's not supposed to lock because one of the thing is that if at the end of the mission or at the end of the match, if the shark is not touching the wall, it's worth more points.
There is, part of the mission is to push the shark out in a way such that it doesn't tip over. It's very smooth. But once it tips over, it's not worth as much points. And there's also restrictions in there about...
You can't put anything in there to hold it up and things like that.
You can't touch the shark.
Or you can't touch the shark at all after it's off base.
Yeah, once it's been deployed, nothing else can touch it except the tank. And if any of the walls of the tank are touching the shark, it doesn't meet that criteria for additional points.
So basically, it's all the balance, sort of like smooth.
Yes, it's about, as it was kind of explained to us at Partner Conference, it's about, when there is such a science and a crazy amount of work involved to transport animals between aquariums and things. And so this is kind of showing that to kids. If you want to fly a shark or put it on a truck, how do you do that in a way that's safe for the animal? And so this kind of emulates that a little bit in that they have to push the shark at a very gentle, slow, without any jolts in order to get it to the location it needs to be. And that is kind of the motivation for the mission a little bit, and that's why you want to keep it upright. Because it kind of mimics a stress-free transport of the animal in the real world. So, hope that answered your question. Any other questions we can help with on anything related to the First Leg League programs?
Can the programming be done on different machines and then all loaded into your same robot, the brain? So can different kids be working on programming?
I mean, that's more of a limitation, as long as you don't make sure you don't overwrite anything. Don't name them the same thing. I don't remember how the NXT worked in terms of its. I think there were separate files too. Yeah. So for at least the NXT and the EV3, you can do that. Just want to make sure you don't overwrite anything, or that everything's up to date, and you don't accidentally delete other programs. That's unfortunately happened at events too. Make sure bring a laptop with your completed programs on it when you come to an event. Sometimes laptops do, or the EV3 does crazy thing and likes to just forget everything the morning of an event. That has happened to multiple teams before, and they've had to scramble.
So what's the best way to get additional parts to build the robot if the kids need additional parts?
Bring them from home. Like if any Lego pieces, as long as they're made by Lego, can be used regardless of what set it comes from. It doesn't have to be specifically from like Lego Education.
It doesn't have to be Mindstar.
No,
No.
you can go put Lego City or
Technics.
Technics.
Star
I've seen
Wars. I mean, there's-
Bionicles, but not very often because they don't truly fit together as well.
But as long as it's made by Lego, you know, and not modified, you can't modify the pieces except for factory sanctioned stickers and cutting rope to length. But any Lego piece is valid in the game. And be sure it's Lego and not Mega Block or any of those other ones. We had a team build a good part of the robot out of Mega Blocks once, and that was not fun. They did play both the jig out of Mega. So. Any other questions?
You know, just pertaining to that, like if, also if you need extra sensors or one goes bad or a motor and things like that, I mean, like places like Amazon sell the components for the industry.
So the
If you're looking,
sensors are available on Amazon.
yeah, you can buy all the sensors and the motors as individual pieces, and they're available through a variety of vendors. Amazon, you can get them through Lego Education. You might be able to even buy them through the portal that teams have access to buy the field and stuff, because you do get discounts through the first Lego Education store. I'm not sure. I know you can buy like kits, like the expansion set and stuff. I'm not sure about individual sensors, but you do get discounts through that store though, which is nice. Anything else we can help with?
Not anything? Not just the table?
Questions back, sir?
When you have your first Lego League team, how do you suggest defining roles so that you can work as a coach? How do you define roles and where we go? How do you do that?
That's a difficult question because it kind of also comes down to the capability of the kids and what they're interested in. And it really depends on the team size too. A team of 6 might split up into pairs of 2 to focus on maybe part of the project or programming a mission or designing something for the robot and split it up that way. For larger teams, you could do something similar, have half the team working on the project side and doing research, half the team working on the robot and flip-flop between meetings. Sometimes all hands into the robot at once can be challenging. Too many chefs in the kitchen, as it were. But yeah, it really, and some kids are more into the programming, you know, and so that's what they'll gravitate to. But it is important that all the kids get a well-rounded experience. It is important, especially in the project and in a robot game, the judges will ask every kid a question. They'll try to get everyone to answer. And it's important that, like, it is understandable that one kid might have a really good understanding of how a light sensor works, and the other kids have a high-level understanding. It's okay for kids to direct the answer to the right person who knows, but it's also important that all kids are involved in everything. So you might have a kid who wants to work on the project solo, and that's it. It's important to gear them into the robot so they're able to understand that and get that learning and experience out of it. But there's just a lot of kind of examples I can give on how to direct kids, but it really is up to what the kids are interested in and what they're motivated by and what their kind of attention spans are. Some kids can work for 4 hours straight and be fine. Some can only handle an hour, you know, and it really, you know, it depends on a lot of varying factors on how you want to structure the meetings.
My team, we're mostly stuck on the robot, working with the robot, and finding difficulty moving kids to the project or getting them interested in an animal, and getting them going on an idea. I know there's the steps in the challenge guide: identify the problem, create a solution, share it with people. In my mind, I'm seeing it as like a research project.
It's very similar to a research project, yeah.
But it's not my research project. It's not my responsibility to bring in resources for the kids. It's not my responsibility to show them how
It really depends on the skill level of the kids. If they're young and they might need guidance, they might need, say, a coach to show them where to get the resources, show them where things are at, help guide the meetings. You know, it's not your job to find the answers, but it's your job to help make sure that the kids are on the right path. So if they're only wanting to focus on the robot, we'll have a meeting where you put the robot away. And it's now all about the project. And so they're not even allowed to touch the robot in that session, that meeting. And you ask them, all right, well, we have to come prepared at the next meeting. We're only going to focus on the project and pick an animal. You know, and guide them on preparing them with things and guide them towards the solution or towards, you know, solving the problems and hitting all those key points. But, you know, don't do it for them. It's kind of a balance there of, well, here's everyone present an idea. Okay, well, let's discuss each of them. And, you know, you can help moderate a discussion, but it's important that the kids are the ones, you know, solving, and maybe once they see how you're doing it, they can take over and handle it themselves, right? It's the same thing with the robot. We've had coaches that create an entirely separate robot on an entirely separate field and demo a sensor and how it works. And then they tell the kids, all right, so I've showed you how to do it. Now do it. And so it's about providing those resources and teaching them something that can help them if they're stuck. You know, we don't want to let the kids be totally off the leash, because it kind of does, especially at the younger years, the coaches kind of need to step in and help make sure they're on topic. We've had a couple years where a coach let the kids just have free reign and they went off topic and kind of had to deal with that at an event, and it wasn't really fun for anyone. But, you know, the coaches are there to guide and help ensure a successful season, but to not answer the questions for the kids. That makes sense. So. So we have about one more. We'll do one more question.
With the animal model, that thing that turns, that's in between the two tables, you score by having two animals on the same side, right? So that means that you actually have to take the animals off those trays, because I mean that thing is always somewhere in between.
So
never at one time there's two of them on one side.
According to the challenge guide, it says that an animal is on this table as long as it's south of the dividing line. So as soon as it makes that full switch, it's considered on this part of the table.
So as the team, you know, manipulates the
animal does not have to be off the module to be considered on the same
So if I have a gorilla somewhere else on the table, and then I have a gorilla on that tray, that counts as two animals on the same side?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's what's the word? Pairs of animals on common playing field.
Each pair is worth like 20 points.
And so, you know, if you switch two animals, so the deer's on this side, and then the team switches them, so now the deer's on the other table, and we've got frogs here. In this case, we actually now have two frogs on this field, and in the other case, there would be two reindeers on this other field that is not here, but would be at a competition. That means that there are two pairs of animals on these common playing fields. So teams would score 2 each.
40 points each side. How does another animal get onto the tray?
At that point, the robot has to interact.
The robot has to do it after the first time.
Yeah,
The
so
robot
when
has
you
to
start the
do it.
match, you...
But that would only help the other team unless their robot put one on for you.
No, because all the points scored by this go to both sets of teams.
Okay.
So even if your robot is the only one that turned that around, that made 2 pairs of animals, so both teams get that 40 points.
2 pairs.
And then
if you did a third one, both teams would get 3 pairs.
Well, it becomes, and they would have to take it off on their side too, right? So if you swap it, and you take, and so now you have 2 frogs on this table, and then you decide to put a reindeer, or not the reindeer, the flamingo on here, the team actually, you have to actually.
The referee is supposed to flip that.
The referee flips it, and then if you flip it again, and they did not take the reindeer out, you still have your reindeer back.
And so that's still only 2 pairs.
Yeah.
Because you have
So
the 2 flamingos and the
really
2.
can't do more than one unless it just so happens you're competing directly side by side, another team that decided
Yeah.
to take the same
And-
approach
and
at
they'd
the
have
same
to-
time
yeah.
within the 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's why it's the
Got it.
cooperation model.
Yeah.
In
And
other words, we could discuss with the other team what animal they're gonna put on there, because we don't wanna both put the same animal. We can't do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
You'll get the match schedule ahead of time, and so you can see ahead of time what table or what team is going to be opposite you.
Okay.
Or you could even do it in the queue as you're waiting for your match.
Yeah, and that's up to you guys. We're not gonna tell you, we're not gonna say, hey, you guys have the same animals. That's
Are
entirely
we
up to
going
you
to have the
guys.
referee put it on?
If the kids can't reach, we'll have part of the field crew help out with putting them in the right place. I wanted to say something. And remember, you cannot, I'm assuming this is still a rule, you cannot influence another side of the table. That's still a rule?
Like, what do you mean?
Like knocking the animal off on the other side of the field?
I don't think your robot's supposed to extend past the north wall.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think that's actually in the rules, though. Since it,
So, I mean, what I was saying is that if you did switch it and then the team didn't take it off, but if you somehow got it to knock off onto their field, you could, but I don't know if that's a valid strategy.
it's not a Scott Evans approved
It's
strategy.
probably not a Scott Evans approved strategy, but it's not the rules. You can't do it. Anyway, kind of a bit of a tangent there.
Project clarification. Teams don't have to pick a specific animal, right?
What do you mean?
Well, it says, when it says identify, it says pick a situation where people and animals interact, and then identify a specific problem or solve. So I just want to be clear, they don't have to pick a specific animal.
Just a specific problem?
So the problem could involve multiple animals?
Right.
That's not
It could
what
be a
Callie
setting
said.
where you
That
interact with
question was
That-
posed the same
that-
way.
I know there was a question, the reason why I hesitated, we had a question emailed to us, and our judge advisor clarified it a different way, stating that it was only to be one animal.
Because somewhere else it mentions.
It was her interpretation of the singular nature of part of the challenge document. Part of the challenge document has a singular use of animal. And that was what she used to interpret it as being a single animal. However, I will make note of that.
I think there is, on one of the updates, something like a definition of an animal, and I think that's what you're referring to.
Okay.
But it's plural, it says define a situation when people and animals interact.
I think before that it does say to pick an animal though, potentially.
Yeah, it's in that second, in the update.
Well, I'm going to make a note here to, for Callie, so she can make a clarification there. And we can go, and we'll probably put that in maybe the CBR Facebook group or something, maybe an email too, to fully define our interpretation of that. I want to write this down so I forget about it.
I think what she mentioned was in the third as a team, it says identify a specific problem with the way people interact with your animal, singular. It says you might select a problem in one of these areas or at your own, and then it provides a list. It's on page 7 of the challenge guide. And then also on the first as a team, it says choose an animal specifically.
So like, for example, if the problem was people throwing trash in the ocean and it affects like a group of fish, would that be considered one animal, or would those be different
I
types
think,
of animals?
as Callie explained it, and as the interpretation we're going right now, it may affect multiple fish, but you need to select a specific animal that it's affecting.
The question that was posed to us is ecosystems. You know, this is more about focusing on singular relationships, direct relationship with an animal, not necessarily ecosystems where there's a bunch of moving parts. It's more about getting down to the lower level of that kind of definition, not looking at a bunch of animals, but focusing down on how we interact with animals on a day-to-day basis. Or not day-to-day, but on a close relationship.
Michael, the only rule is you can't negatively affect the team. So,
Oh, really?
yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
So Phil might need to make a clarification on that.
All right, well, let's talk about that later. That's an interesting little bit there. So we're past 7. I don't want to impose any people's time and go too late on this. I do thank you all for coming tonight. We'll be around to answer questions and stuff, and if you want to come up afterwards, don't hesitate to send us an email. Join our Facebook group to ask questions, or we will be around, and we're always glad to help. So, thank you all for coming tonight. I hope you have a great rest of the season. Thank you.
Frank?
Yeah.